This has to be the most idyllic podcast that I've ever done.
Well, that's nice to
That's
hear.
unbelievable. I got the dogs are at the feet. I've got two horses grazing off to the side. It's a beautiful sunny day in northern New Mexico, and I have Star York here at her studio and house. So
Yeah.
this is
Well,
your life, right? I mean, pretty much.
yeah, it sure is. It's we joke that both Greg and I are getting more barn sour than our horses.
Huh? So
We
what does
don't
that
like.
mean, barn sour?
Oh, well, you call a horse barn sour who doesn't want to leave the barn. They always
Ah,
want to go back to the barn,
oh yeah,
and most of them do. There
yeah.
are
It's just
very few that, I mean, they can be trained not to,
right
as are my horses. But you let the reins go and don't give them any direction, and it's always back
back
to the
to the thing.
barn.
Yeah, I can see why you'd want to. I mean,
It's where they're friends.
you have water running here. Like a is it like a river or is it irrigation or
Yeah, the Rio Chama
oh, it's
is
right
right,
there.
follows that tree line down
Oh
there.
well,
And off it, we are able to get irrigation water for our pastures,
okay,
which is a big reason why I wanted to buy this place initially, because I wanted to raise horses.
right.
And the babies really do need that fresh green grass growing up to fully develop, I think. And it's hard to find in New Mexico.
Yeah, I mean,
And
irrigation water is everything.
yeah, it is.
And you've had this place 35 years,
Mm-hmm.
and
Almost 35.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and you still have 9 horses or something like that.
No, we're down to, we've had a couple pass away because they got pretty old and they
Yep,
were retired. So we're down to seven.
yeah. That's still a lot. I mean, there's two of you. You have an assistant, but you're making sculpture full time. You have numerous galleries. We're here because we're going to do this major 50-year retrospective of your work at our museum and our gallery in Tucson coming up very soon, October 24th. So, but you got to take care of 7 horses
Yeah,
by yourself, I
we
guess.
have, but it's my exercise. I really don't do anything but ride and ranch work for exercise. So
Yeah,
that I think is good because it does, I think, keep me healthy. And I look forward to it. But riding for me it's not just good physical therapy, it's also mental and emotional therapy for me, and it always has been. So they've been a big part of my life as soon as I could afford to buy one. And my
mm,
sister and I mean, my siblings and I grew up in suburbia, but something clicked for both my older sister and I early on. And by the time I was 14, we'd pooled our babysitting money and got our first horse
really?
and worked at the place where we boarded them in order to afford the board.
Wow.
So it just has been in my DNA for some reason. I don't know.
Yeah. Did she
But
stay that way too, your sister with the
pretty much. She
horses?
was on and off more than I was. But she's living now on a ranch in Prescott, and she has a couple of horses. So it has stuck with both of us, I'd say. I was more intense about it in terms of showing and doing the breeding and all that. But it's just it's something that I'm very passionate about and have been all of my adult life. I can't imagine not having
Horses.
horses. Yeah,
Wow.
they're such a big part of my
And so do
life.
you ride every day?
Yeah.
Every day.
Well, not sometimes not because of weather. I'm getting to be a bit of a fair weather person. If it's raining, I don't go out.
Right.
And if it's super windy, I don't like to go out. I don't mind cold, but the wind is real disconcerting to the horses.
Oh
So,
yeah. And so when you ride a horse, like, so you got 7 horses, how do you pick who you're going to ride?
well, I rotate them, and it depends on their age. I have one that's pretty much retired, another one that's semi-retired, and then two young ones.
Mm-hmm.
So the two young ones I ride several times a week,
Mm.
and the older ones I may ride a couple times a week or once every 2 weeks for the oldest one.
Mm.
So that's how I kind of uh, plan it out.
Yeah.
Depends on who's ready to go, but I like to keep the younger horses in shape enough to go off on any kind of trek that I might want to do, or if friends say, hey, we're going to be doing a camp out in the wilderness, and we take our horses and go, I want them to be in shape for it.
Mm.
So, but more than that, really, Mark, it's for myself.
Yeah.
It's the exercise.
Yeah.
And
it's a meditation for you, right?
Yeah, it truly is. It's the only thing I seem to be able to do to stop my busy mind. When I'm working on something, it just can go round and round in circles. And I think sometimes we need to block some of those when we're working on problem solutions with our art, to block it by just getting away from it.
Yeah.
And it does that for me too.
It breaks the circuits for whatever reason. Yeah.
Yes, it interrupts that monotonous pattern that your mind gets in.
And can you sleep at night, or do you get stuck back into your work?
I'm doing better.
Okay.
Most of my adult life, I was lucky to get 5 hours sleep. Mostly I got 4 hours sleep most of my adult life. But as I've aged, I've realized how important it has been to get more sleep.
Yeah.
So luckily, Greg is like the most talented sleeper I've ever known.
Yeah.
So he could go to sleep anywhere. So I think that has helped me sleep a little longer, and just trying to do other things to calm my mind.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Your mind just races, just thinking about what you have to do.
I imagine you have the same thing.
I do.
With all you do.
Yeah.
My gosh.
Yeah. So, I have to function on trying to meditate and to be in the moment and to calm that. So I'm not on a project because, it's very easy to go, oh, I've got this, and this to do. And
well, that comment, be in the moment, is huge.
It's everything.
It is.
Right. Like now, this is being in the moment.
Yeah.
For me, at least.
Yes, it is for me too. But when you're on your own, which I imagine both of us are quite a bit, most artists are anyway, because when you're working, you're on your own. It's real easy to be thinking ahead or back, or back. And that's something else horses and animals in general, dogs, all do for me too, is help me be more in the moment.
Yeah.
You really have to be present. With dogs, it's not so important, but with horses, if you're not present, they're big, dangerous animals.
Correct.
And it's really easy for them to, if they realize you're not present, you're not there, then they're fine with taking over.
Right. And
if you're on their backs, that can be pretty inconvenient and dangerous. Yeah. So to be that alpha that they need all the time and be present for them is much more demanding than like dogs. And more dangerous if you don't.
Yeah, because they know they can probably just feel your energy.
Absolutely.
I would assume.
They can feel you turn your head.
Yeah.
They're so sensitive, and they can hear your heartbeat from 8 feet away. And they're so in tune to that because they're prey animals.
Right.
So to hear a human getting, like, what really scares them is if a human is afraid of them, because they don't know you're afraid of them.
Right.
They think you're just afraid, so they need to be afraid.
Right.
So that's really important, is to not have that fast beating heart.
Right.
If you work a lot with horses.
Yeah, I think that's true for most animals, honestly.
I think so, but for prey animals, it's even more important.
Because I feel that with snakes of all types, because I can just go pick up a snake, and I don't, it's very uncommon for them to want to bite me or anything. They just
I knew a guy that had tarantula as a pet, and he said the same thing.
Oh yeah.
He said you could handle it as long as you didn't get afraid.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I'll let a tarantula walk onto my hand and hold it. It won't, and it'll know that I'm not going to do anything.
Yeah.
Right. Because I am not afraid.
Because they can feel that.
That's right.
We exude a certain. It's like pheromones that we exude.
It is very true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe it.
And then again, part of that is being in that moment too, and just focusing on whatever that is. And tell me, is it hard to be in the moment? I'm guessing it is when you're working at a sculpture. Now, I know you're focused on a sculpture and you're very intent on it, but to me, that's a different thing than being in the moment.
I think you're right about that.
Yeah.
It's more like it's really hard to describe. Um, but I think most people have it in some aspect of their lives,
Mm.
something they're passionate about
Yes, hopefully.
is where you, yeah, hopefully, because it's what makes
Yeah,
life
I know.
rich.
Like, what else is there?
Yeah.
Right?
But when you, when I go, I can only speak for myself. When I go into the studio and I get into a piece, it's like I'm entering this. The only thing the word I can describe it as that comes close, I think, is getting in this Zen space
Yes.
in your head
Right.
where you aren't present in the same way you are for another being,
Yes, right.
but you are present in a way that is somewhere deeper inside you. And I think it's a kind of thing where you're going beneath the unconscious
Yes, it is. I
to the
believe that.
soul,
I call, yeah, that's right.
to where you
The
touch
magic.
yourself, that the magic,
Yeah.
yeah. That even talking about it, I get goose flesh.
Yeah.
It's where you're able to touch something that is that I believe is so incredibly intimate and personal, and at the same time, it's cosmic. It's
Right.
like it's part of that collective consciousness.
Yes. Right.
And that to me is the only way to get there.
Yes.
Now, I know a lot of people talk about doing that with meditation or a variety of different ways, but that's the only way I've ever
Yeah.
experienced it.
Yeah, I think creative people have to tap into that thing, I call it magic, to be able to flow and have that happen.
Yes.
And I'm sure there's times you finish something or get to a point and you go, I don't even know how I did that.
Oh, yes.
You know?
Oh, yes. Or where that came from.
Right.
And it's, I think the most striking and easily explained example of that for me was when the Millicent Rogers Museum had commissioned me to do a sculptural portrait of Maria Martinez,
Mm,
the
yeah.
Pueblo potter. And I didn't do portraits,
Right.
number one.
Right.
And secondly, I just injured my right hand enough. I was working too much, pulling off too much clay, and I really did injure my right
Yeah.
hand, and I am right-handed. So I couldn't use that. It was in a sling. So I gave myself a lot of time, like 6 months to do this
Right.
piece. And also, I went through hundreds of photographs to find something where I could see a glimmer of her personality, who
Right.
she was, that
Right.
character. And it's hard to find because she was rising in her field back in the 30s,
20s and
40s.
30s. Yep.
And
40s.
it was not very accepted in her pueblo
Right.
to stand out, especially
Right.
as a woman.
Right.
So she was very guarded.
Right.
But nonetheless, I did find one, took it home, and it was at a time where I was by myself here. I'd gone through a divorce, and I worked a lot at night in those days. And uh, I was really concerned about being able to sculpt this detailed piece with my left hand, number one, and doing a portrait, number two. But when I'd go out there and work, I always felt, once I got into it, really started thinking about it, because I have a tendency to really start getting into the character that's emerging as I
Mm-hmm.
sculpt.
Yeah, like an actor almost.
Yeah, well, maybe so.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
I don't
you
know.
have to
That makes
inhabit that
sense.
person's soul of something to be able to channel
Or
it.
at least touch it in some
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
Even if it's in no other way than your imagination, but somehow or other, if you give yourself time and intensity about it, it seems to be more than that. It
Yeah.
seems to be more than just what you know about that person or
Oh,
what
yeah.
you want to believe about
Yeah,
that
no, I get
person,
it.
right? Or
Yeah.
being.
You channel it.
And that's when it felt like there was a point at which it really felt like she was in the room with me.
Mm-hmm.
And I cannot explain it in any other way except that she seemed to be guiding me. I finished that piece in record time.
Mm.
And it was astounding to me, number one,
Mm-hmm.
because of those issues I was dealing with. And, but more than anything, that I felt so strongly that she was there as a guide
Mm-hmm.
to some degree. And I have felt that in different degrees and in different ways with a lot of the work that I've done, even the animal pieces. I don't know where that comes from, but that even that. But for that piece, it was just so clear to me. And she had to be a really strong person to have done what she
Oh
did
yeah.
in that period,
Oh
at that
yeah, for
time.
sure.
So it just made sense to me that if there's anything to spirit, that I feel like that's the closest I'd ever come really
And it
to it.
makes sense, right? Because you're both, you make your
It does.
life, your whole entire life is spent around touching clay, molding clay. Your hands have the same sensibility. I know I've seen many images of Maria's hands, and they're very strong hands and
Yes.
years of working in the clay, and you have that same thing that you do. So you could relate to her not, I think, only as a person, as a famous person, and all this, but she is what you do as well, just in a different, you're doing it, you're making clay for all these objects, all these different images, and she's doing it for her pots
And maybe that's how we could really connect on
absolutely, I
some
would
other
think.
level, because one thing I knew for sure is I had to have her hands be active in a part of that,
I'm sure.
and that she be creating something that did show the expression of who she was beyond what she presented as a human being
Yeah.
on the surface.
Yeah, because you're
You
trying to
know,
find the essence of the person, right? Whether it's an
right?
animal and you're trying to find the sensibility of that exact thing,
Exactly.
you're trying to
Right.
do it with her, and you're both potters. You're both clay, work with clay. I
Right.
mean, that's you've done it for a zillion years, 50 years or more. And so I could see why once you got it in your mind what it had to be, because she's the same as you, and you really channeled it basically, that it could flow like that.
And it did come
Yeah,
together. And I was so
I'm
gratified
sure.
when the presentation happened at the museum and they had a big
Yeah,
dinner and all that.
and all their
And
family.
they sat me right beside her niece.
Yeah,
Actually, she was her grandniece, who uh, had lived with her to the end, had
yeah,
taken care of her right to the end. And I was very nervous because I wanted to see what,
yeah.
I
Of course,
knew I had to ask her
right.
what she thought. And so at some part of the proceedings, I don't even remember at what point I finally worked up the nerve to ask her. But she said, "Well, the only thing I'd say is that the pot color is probably not perfectly accurate. I think the color of the pots need to be."
Right.
And I said, "But her personality, you
Yeah,
think she, oh yeah, oh yeah," she said, like it was,
yeah. You got that part.
so it was like, phew, I can change the color of the pots
Right, right. Yeah,
easily
yeah. The other part you can't.
because if she's working on it, it's not going to be like fired clay and it's
No,
not,
right.
so, anyway,
Yeah.
so
And part of that process that you do, we can talk about this, is when you do animals, you really, they have a personality. And maybe you could talk a little bit about how you do that, because I'm sure it's the same process, but when I look at, I'm next to a crow or a raven and a horse, and they have their own, like that raven I can see as his own person. And and that's part of who you are and what you do with this that makes you stand out, in my opinion, and I think other people's opinion as well.
well, it's really satisfying when I hear people say that because from the time I was a toddler, I was out with animals. My mother said,
Mm,
I'd be,
I'm sure.
anyway, I just connected with animals, had a real affinity for them right at the start. So I've had animals all my life, and I've really gotten to know them and be close to them and realize how very different every one of them are, just like we are.
Right,
They all have separate personalities and characters, and it doesn't matter how you raise them; they're going to be their own person, their own being,
right.
I should say. And I see that in the wildlife. And here, more than any other place I've lived, I've been in tune with the wildlife, because having my studio right next to the acequia there,
Right.
the animals come in, particularly the ravens.
Mm.
Coyotes used to go back and forth out there all the time, and they still, there's always a little litter that's born around here, and we hear the babies
Mm-hmm.
and as they're growing up in the summer, and usually by the time they get to be like teenagers, they're wanting to come up to the house and challenge the dogs. So we see that
Mm.
routinely every year. But with the ravens, they are so interactive. They'll talk to you and they
Mm.
will respond. If I talk back to them, and try to copy them, they'll start making patterns that they want me to copy.
Mm.
It's kind of like we will do with a bird. We'll
Right.
say something.
Right.
If they kind of repeat it, then we
Yeah.
try to get,
Right.
they'll do that with me. It's like, she's trainable.
That's funny.
But they do so many other things that show that they have these characters that enjoy being entertained. Like I had one dog, she's passed away now, um, that Lucy, that I called my crow dog. She was a little black dog that was part healer, and she had this thing going on with the ravens around here, and they would really be entertained by throwing things at her. And she'd get out there. She always had a raven bark. I could always tell when she was barking at ravens because there was a certain kind of bark she used. But one day she was barking quite a bit right here.
Right.
And I came out the door to hush her up or bring her in, and I saw that there was a raven up there who was laughing at her. And when she stopped barking, that raven had collected things to throw at her on that branch. And it would go to the next one and throw it at her until she started barking again.
Yeah.
And then she'd bark again, and the raven would rah, 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 and then wait till she stopped. And if she stopped and started to go away, raven would pick up another one and throw it at her.
Oh my gosh.
And that's, what are they doing that for? That's just sheer entertainment.
Yeah, that's right.
Self-entertainment.
Yeah, or torture for the dog.
Or enjoying the torture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, did you make a sculpture that would relate to that?
Well, I made several sculptures that were called Raven Dialogues, and that's where the bears and the ravens. And the reason I like doing that with the bears is because I don't know whether you've ever been there, but you know of Arizona? I'm sure you've seen it on the highway, US 40.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Well, when that first opened,
Yes.
I went in there because I was kind of excited. I knew they had these big paddocks where the animals could live more or less, close to what it would be like out in the wild. So I had gone there to look at some of the buffalo there because I was thinking about doing a sculpture of buffalo, and it was in a big 15-acre paddock that they had those, and you could drive through the paddocks. Well, I decided to go through the bear paddock because I'd seen. Well, anyway, I decided to go through the bear paddock, and there were all black bears, and the ravens, there were as many ravens in that paddock as bears, and they were interacting constantly.
Mm.
And it was the ravens teasing the bears, and the bears pretty much ignoring them, but they'd once in a while react back.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And I saw this one bear who was getting a kick out of crawling up on a sapling and getting to the point where it would finally fall over, right?
Right.
And then it'd hop off and go do it again. And this raven was getting a real kick out of that. And so it at one point actually tried to jump on the bear and go down.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I mean, they
Amazing.
love rides. And then another time when I was working on a sculpture in my studio, and it was summer, and I'd moved it out to the outdoor bridge that goes across the acequia. And the piece was a Canadian goose and its goslings. And it was frequent that the ravens would come around and talk to me if I was working out there, because I'd sometimes talk back and interact. But this time, I was working along, and they were making noise, and I just wasn't paying attention because I was concentrating. And all of a sudden, I realized they weren't making their usual croak, croak, croak sound.
Right.
They were quacking
Like a duck.
like a duck.
That's funny.
And I just got the biggest kick out of
Yeah.
that. But I, of course, couldn't record it in any way because
Right.
it happens too fast. And that was before I had a cell phone that I could do that with anyway. But it just made me realize how interactive they can be and how much they enjoy entertaining themselves.
Yeah.
So to try to put that in the sculpture I do and
Right.
show that, I don't know, the humor they have, the love of life, I, it just seemed necessary.
Yeah.
I mean, or why do it otherwise? Just
Yeah. And they're the only
know?
birds, crows and ravens, that can actually recognize individual people. So,
Yeah,
you know,
right.
they actually know who you are.
Yes.
And if they don't like you, or if they do like you, they'll act different ways, just like they
Yeah.
did with your dog. They knew who your dog was.
Right.
And they probably, it seemed
And
like
that
they actually
specific
liked
one.
it. Yeah, no, just that one.
Yeah.
Right. So,
The other ones they don't seem to care about.
no, because they knew this was the one that they could get to interact with.
Yeah.
In a good way or a bad way.
And so they could be entertained.
Yeah.
And they used to, when my dogs would follow me over to my neighbor's, for instance, she had built this big arena. And just to do something different with one of the young horses I was training, I'd take them to different places, have them get used to different things. So I'd take them over to Ann's and ride around her arena. And she had all these big lights around the arena. And of course, I'm there in the daylight, so it's not like they were on. But I'd go over there, and Lucy would come along, and the ravens, there would be ravens on every light, and they would take turns dive bombing her.
Yeah.
Only Lucy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And one would come off one to go down and go back up. And then another one would come off a different lamp,
oh, yeah.
dive bomb her, and go back up.
They knew her. They kind of maybe didn't like her in a way. Whatever it was.
I don't think that was the case. I
There was
think
something
they just
that they
were entertained by the
and-
fact
yeah.
that she would react.
Yeah.
Because they did that a little bit to my Jack Russell, who would definitely react too.
Yeah.
So I think it was more they just were entertaining themselves.
Well, they knew the dog,
Yeah.
the personality.
Yeah.
Do they react to like one of your sculptures out here, or have they been around so long they know?
Well, I
know
don't
animals do
really know.
that, I
Oh
know.
yeah. The dogs used to bark. Like the first time I did a piece of wildlife, it was a coyote. And I brought it home and set it on the porch because it was life size until I got it to the person that had commissioned it. And all night long, we had a dog that was barking. And it was real close to the house, and that seemed weird. And I came out finally at dawn the next morning, and there Cassidy was barking away at the coyote.
Yeah. Your coyote.
Yeah, at my coyote. I said, ugh. So I brought the coyote in the house, and she went over to where it was laying and pissed on it.
Right
on the spot it was. And I've had a lot of that kind of reaction. John, what's his name? The guy that owned the Broadmoor Gallery.
Yeah. Yeah, I know who you're talking
You know
about.
who I'm talking about. He had a gallery dog. It was a Burmese mountain dog. And there was a point at which we were talking about my representation there, and I thought I'd try it out. So I had taken a few of my animal sculptures in, and it was all bronze sculpture and all wildlife, pretty much.
Yeah.
I think he had a few pieces that weren't, but it's almost all wildlife. And his dog reacted to my sculpture, not to the others. Why? I don't make them super realistic.
Yeah.
Not like some people
They have
do.
personalities, that's why.
Well, I guess he saw something, that
Yeah.
dog saw something in those pieces because John said, well, he's never done that before.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like, well, that's interesting.
Yeah, I see kids react that way in the gallery too.
Yes, I was going to say the
Yeah.
same thing.
Yeah,
I
they
love
do.
it when I get reactions from kids because it's so genuine.
It is. And I always
So
tell
honest.
parents when they come in, it's fine for the kids to touch the sculpture because they always tell
Yes.
the parents do the same thing. They say, don't touch anything. Don't touch anything. I'll say, it's okay. Any of the sculpture they can touch, it's fine. It's not going to hurt them, and let them get a positive interaction with an art gallery, or, so they feel that, it's not a place, oh, I need to be careful. I don't
I
like
think
it.
it's one of the highest compliments, and it's one of the reasons I have so much trouble with having sculpture outside that are animals, because in front of a gallery, for instance, like
Oh,
Sorrel
yeah.
Sky,
Oh, yeah.
there'll be people walk by, and Manitou has sculpture outside, and we have sculpture outside. They never touch those Manitou sculptures. I've watched,
Yeah.
but they always touch mine, and so mine, the patinas go pretty bad fast
Yeah.
because of the oils from
Yeah.
human touch.
Yeah.
But my gosh, I love that they want to touch them.
Yeah.
I think that's
They do.
great.
I've sat down at in their gallery. We have a lion, a cougar, and I sit down on, because we built this big thing just for it. I sit down and just want to put my hand on it.
Good.
And that's just innate. That's just coming from, oh yeah, this is something that feels like I should be touching it.
Yeah. Well,
Like,
that's super.
yep. So,
That's
and
super.
so let's talk a little bit about this retrospective. So it's 50 years basically, right? And we've been talking about it for, I don't know, a year or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and planning for it. Well, it's giving you time to think about that career, I'm sure, that you're doing, that we're going to, celebrate that you can do. First of all, just being an artist for 50 years is amazing. To be an artist in this profession, sculpture, which I think is very difficult, and I think being a woman sculptor can be tough, or tougher too, just because of all the things, and you have, and it's not an easy thing to have to move around as well,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I
So
mean,
true.
it's a very exhausting physically, and you're all of about 5 feet tall, 100
Well,
pounds.
5'1".
Yeah, yeah. But so have you thought about this in a different, has it given you a chance to reflect?
Yeah, it's mostly it's had a lot to do with what I feel might be important to show in terms of a progression.
Yes.
And I've thought a lot about that and looked at the pieces. I've been surprised at how many pieces are still accessible to show some of that. But then it's just taken me back to those times when I was doing those individual pieces, and how I thought about what I was doing, how that how doing them and having the opportunity to be able to express myself in those ways kind of shaped who I was as an adult. So I sold my first sculptures, had my first gallery before I was 20, really, but we didn't start doing doing really well until I was in my early 20s. But it certainly set me on a path, and it was like the die was cast, kind of like with horses.
Right.
Once I got into it, it's those two things in my life. I knew that I wanted to do the rest of my life right from the start. So the die was cast,
Yeah.
and it really did shape a lot of who I think I became, because it allowed me, I think, to stay truer to who I am, really am, because there's so much pressure, I think, on all of us when we're raised in a society like we are, civilized, with lots of boundaries and lots of expectations about what you're going to do and be in your life.
Right.
From the not just your family, but the whole culture.
Yeah. And even yourself.
Well, that's what shapes what you
Yeah.
expect, what you yourself expect from yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that's the most damaging thing, if it's not in sync with who
Right.
you really are.
Yep.
And I think those are the most unhappy people.
Yeah. Yep. It's very easy for people to fall in line with parental expectations, or societal for that
And
matter.
societal,
You know,
because
especially
it
when you're
hits us
growing
with
up
all
too.
the media.
Right. When you're growing up too,
Yeah.
there's,
That was in the 50s.
yeah, the
So
options are not the same.
they were,
Nurse,
yes,
teacher,
right.
mother,
And I always thought I would have to be a teacher,
Yeah.
which isn't a bad profession. I so respect teachers. I think they should be the
Yeah. The
as high
superstars.
respected as any profession.
Absolutely.
They're so important to any culture, any society. And teachers I've had in my life have been so critical in how they've influenced who I've been. And along those lines, my my uncle, my father's youngest brother, was one of my best friends in life. And I didn't get to know him until I was a young adult. But he was a teacher. He taught high school. And because we became really good friends, he taught on Long Island. He retired to Arizona,
Hmm.
Camelback, actually. And when he went out there, he had told me that he wanted to get in touch with a young student that he had had, 20 years before or something. And he said that the student had been in touch with him, and he wanted to go out and see his business because it was there in Arizona too. So we went out there. It was in Jerome,
Hmm.
and it was a little, well, actually, it was a rather big for Jerome uh, pottery gallery.
Mm.
And we walked in, and like I said, it really was a big gallery for a ceramic studio. And we bought a few things, took it to the counter, and the lady uh, took care of us. And my uncle said, by the way, is so and so here, the owner? And she said, yes, he's in the back. So she went and got him, and he came out. And as soon as he saw my uncle, still brings tears, chokes me up a little bit. He broke into tears
Mm.
and ran over and hugged him. And we went on to talk about how important my uncle's influence was on his choice of what to do with his life,
Mm.
because he had so much pressure to be a doctor or a lawyer,
Right.
but he wanted to be an artist.
Yeah.
And my uncle's encouragement had given him the confidence to follow his
Yeah.
heart.
Yeah.
And
That was a pivotal guy.
yeah, so that kind of thing, I think teachers can be so very valuable.
Yeah, they can make an amazing difference, and
Yeah.
they can do the opposite too. They can,
Oh,
I've
yeah.
heard of many people, artists who've been told, oh, you can't do this by teachers or even by art teachers sometimes.
Yep. I've
And
heard that too.
yeah, so I mean, it's a great deal of power you have when you're molding a mind of of a young person. They take it so seriously that somebody who's an adult who's in power says, no, you can't do that. Or
Yeah.
yes, you can do that.
Yeah.
So,
I remember an artist friend of mine saying one teacher told him he wouldn't make it as an artist because he was too short. I mean,
okay.
isn't that weird? And it
Yeah.
was a teacher.
Yeah.
Yeah. It just, and
So,
so who knows? Who
but
knows where that person was coming from?
everyone that pretty much that I represent knows a teacher that made a huge difference in their lives and usually knows their name and everything about them. And like, yeah, that was the one that really saw it. I just heard that the other night from, oh yeah, Whitney Gardner. She's talking about her second grade teacher who she still keeps in touch with. And she was
Wow.
saying
Yeah.
that she was, instead of having to do the math and things, the teacher allowed her to go do art,
Oh,
because she knew
yeah.
that was her gift and that was
Yeah.
what she was interested in.
Yeah,
So,
for me, it was a high school teacher. I had her for 3 years as art studio and in art and humanities. So it was art history. And absolutely, it was so impactful. And we stayed in touch until she died.
yeah,
And she just died last year, as a
wow.
matter of fact. But they can have such extraordinary impact
Yeah,
on
well, here
the
you are 50
lives.
years later,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Sitting here talking about this journey of
Right.
yours,
Yep.
and part of the thing you're known for, and it comes to life so much more fully when I'm here, are your horses. Because I look around and I see, pastures and horses. You come in, there's horses. I mean, we're sitting here, there's horses around us.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They're
and
everywhere.
so we know your sensibility of why they are important to your life, but you know, are they're a sizable portion of what you produce, I would think.
They haven't been. You know, I didn't
You
start.
started late on those a little bit,
Yeah, I
right?
did. And wildlife too. When I first moved to the Southwest, I was so enchanted by the Navajo culture, and
Right.
because my husband was writing a book about um, an incident, a true story that happened on the Navajo Nation. We went out there quite a bit, and
Yes.
I was invited to some, like a Canalda ceremony, the 4 day
Right.
ceremony, and I was just fascinated by the colors and the. Some people come out here and think of this as just, you know, brown and, you
Right.
know, dry, but the colors that are here are so vibrant, in their clothing and in the areas where, like Canyon de Chelly, where they have
Mm-hmm.
all the red rock and the
Right.
green trees. All of that, to me, was really exciting to explore and to get to know, not to mention the people who are connected to the earth in a way that most of us raised in suburbia or urban, um, don't have much of an experience of anymore. And I think that's to the detriment of humankind. I think it really is good to stay in touch with
Yeah, they
that.
don't know when the moon is. They couldn't even tell you the moon cycle.
Right,
You know, it's like,
right.
oh, there's a moon out tonight. Yeah.
I know. Or start a fire.
Yeah, and so that was the component of you doing a lot of native imagery,
Yes.
which you're known. I mean, you're known for native imagery. You've done Western imagery.
And the
You,
ranchers, yeah, I'd
yeah,
meet these great
yeah,
ranchers, the ranching people. So it was the same thing. It was that, like, getting in touch with people who, because of their connection to the land and the world, are very present when you speak to them. Like, I love talking to Shanto, the
yeah,
gay.
yeah.
I mean, he's just so
He
present.
is very present,
And
always.
it's hard to find that in people in our own culture.
Yeah,
I think
it's
it's
going to get
harder to
harder
find it.
too
Yeah,
because we're so focused in on our phones.
right.
You know,
And other things. It's just forward, backwards, what's going to happen, what has happened. You know, it's a lack of being present now.
right?
Anyway, so that really drew my attention for the first, I'd say, at least decade that I was here. And then I
Mm,
started branching out more. And I got actually, for the coyote I mentioned that I put on the porch,
yeah,
I got a commission from Palm Desert Golf Course to do a life-size coyote.
right,
And that started me off because when I started it, I thought, well, what can I bring to it that's different? I know all these wildlife artists who I respect. I really think their work is great.
right,
What can I do that's different? And that's where the doing of the piece showed me. What really interested me was not making every hair right, but finding a personality and a
right,
character, because I know those animals all have character
right.
and they're all different.
Yes,
So that set me on that path. Then doing wildlife was really interesting to me, and that's when I started doing it. And because I like the idea of them being in repose, because then if you have them in your home or in your space and they're set somewhere, it could be like you catch this glimpse of them out of the corner of your eye, and they could really be this personality
mm-hmm.
there. There's a presence
Yeah, for sure.
that can be more credible. So I really got into that and enjoyed that. And I still enjoy doing those, um, very much. And then there was a stage where uh, my husband and I used to go hiking everywhere. And when we came across our first petroglyphs, it was like another
Right,
aha moment. This is
right,
amazing. And so all our vacations were directed towards going to see petroglyphs and pictographs.
right,
And I had no intention of trying to incorporate them into
right.
my art. I just didn't even think about it.
Yes, and
It was
that's
just
been a
interesting.
very big component, and part of what we'll have in our museum show will be
Yes.
the petroglyph component of your horses from France off the,
Yeah,
10 to
which started here.
15,000 years
Yeah,
ago that they were
yeah,
made, and then
32,000
yeah,
in
okay,
Chevet.
yeah,
And also the imagery that were on the cave walls that were similar to like the buffalo robes and teepees, with the kind of horses that were um, pecked in in the walls from certain periods. But it was really an image I saw here on the Laguna Reservation, that it was like, I can't wait to get home and sculpt this. And
yeah,
I've just got to bring it to 3 dimensions because it's such a beautiful shape.
yeah, because
And
they're doing these on a one-dimensional kind
yes,
of sensibility, and you can take that and imagine it
mm-hmm,
from that artist, because that's an artist too,
right,
and maybe a
right.
medicine man or something else as well, and be able to see it in your way.
Yeah, and to give it some new attention, in the sense that I believe that because rock art has been done across the globe, doesn't
Oh
matter
yeah,
where you go.
right,
The ancient peoples did images like that, and they were started mostly to be animals, but they branched out into shamanic characters and more.
right,
Anyway, but the the point was to actually be able to bring that to light again. I think it touches all of us in a
yeah,
place that we're not that familiar with,
right,
because there's something in our DNA, I think, that reminds us of that. Because the peoples who painted, for instance, they could tell a lot about the peoples from the caves in the Dordogne Valley in France, like Lascaux and Chauvet and Léazis,
right,
all those different caves, because they were sealed away and kept so well. And so all that was in the cave initially, that 30,000 years ago, is still there. So if they had lived there, there would be signs of life
right,
that is
use,
what's required to live with. But that was not what any of them were. They were more like sacred places to go
mm-hmm,
to, because of the kind of things that they found there. Um, so it was very important. It wasn't decorating their homes. It
right,
was
no, of course not,
no. And to get to like Lascaux, you have to crawl through a tight passage. So imagine being a Stone Age man or woman or both, crawling through those passages, having no idea what's on the other
yeah,
side,
or light,
with, yeah, maybe a torch,
maybe,
maybe not. But to finally get there, open into a space like that, I mean, bears lived in those, cave bears, they
yeah,
were a lot bigger than the bears
yeah,
today. Um, but it was still important enough for them to do it, that those images were very important. And to me, there is something to, and a lot of people may say, well, of course, what we put into objects that we create and put a lot of thought, effort, emotion, and energy into, that I think they hold.
mm-hmm,
And I got convinced of that when my uncle, same uncle I was telling you about that was a teacher, had told me that they had opened at the Smithsonian Museum, they'd opened an African museum, and they did this unusual thing of where they, instead of being a big, wide museum that went up, it went down.
mm,
And it was cylindrical, it's kind of like the reverse of the Guggenheim, it
right,
went down like
right,
this. So, so that had opened, and I went in to see it, and the very first show they had was called Objects of Power,
mm,
and it was a collection of African objects that were created um, by people, and some medicine men, some different tribes, all over the board with that. But in seeing them, they had them set in this stairwell going down. It was probably the most unsettling show I've ever seen.
because
I
the
mean, the
energy off
the
these objects,
energy was amazing,
yeah,
and I was not. I did not believe in what my friends used to call woo-woo stuff.
Yeah, yeah,
And it was just undeniable. You
yeah.
could feel it so strongly.
Yes.
And it did convince me, that was the first time anyway, that I felt convinced that that's something that can happen with objects, paintings, whatever it is you put your
Yeah.
energy into. And I think that's what these ancient people put on their drawings on
Yeah, they
those
were doing the same
walls.
thing.
Yeah,
Yeah, the
doing the
same
same
thing you
thing.
feel every sculpture you do.
Right. And when I saw that piece, it was a big drawing of an elk or deer in velvet that was so beautifully stylized. It was like a 7 foot, that's unusual to
Right.
start with, right? Something that big. Um, it was just, it looked so um, contemporary at the
Mm-hmm.
same time as having that ancient feel to it.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was the very first one. I couldn't wait to get home, and I was up all night sculpting it. So uh, that set me on that direction
Right.
for a while.
Did you know that's a pivot when that happened? That you go, this is going to be a thing for me?
No, I didn't. I just knew I wanted to do that.
Yeah, that one had to be done.
Uh-huh. And it really wasn't until I went over to France and was able to start seeing some of those other caves. And then in 1994, it was the most impactful because I'd already started my interest I've always been interested in ancient art, but particularly the rock art cave paintings, the really ancient ones. And when I was on my way to New Zealand, actually, to do a study of Maori tattoos
Yeah.
in 1994, Time magazine was in one of the bookshops in the airport while I was waiting to get on my flight. I spent a month in New Zealand then. But I saw that Time magazine front cover that the Chauvet cave was discovered.
Oh, yeah.
And it had been discovered a couple years earlier, but they just released the information because they wanted to be able
Control
to
it.
control it.
Yeah.
And so I immediately, as soon as I got back from New Zealand, wrote the French government and asked if I could come over and see it. So I went over again and was able to go there. But
And what was that like, that to see it in person?
well, maybe it was partly the language, but they didn't really let me go in.
No.
They let me go to the mouth of the cave. I met the guy, Jean Chauvet, that owned the property, and he said, "Don't feel bad. They've only let me go in twice, and I discovered it 2 years ago." So, but I could see into it, and the drop off. It was kind of like Lascaux. In that Lascaux, the challenging thing was crawling through the space,
Right.
scary space to get to the open cave. With this, you had to drop down
I
20
see.
feet.
Yeah.
So they had to pull you down.
Ah.
So they wouldn't do that. Yeah. And they had sheets all over every place. Everyone had to walk on the sheets, so nothing was
Right.
disturbed.
Yeah.
But they did let me do that, and I was able to get pictures that after that fact got copyrighted, and so they couldn't be reprinted. So I was glad
Right.
to get those. But it was the most extensive set of drawings in that whole Dordogne, France area that they'd ever found, and they were even older than the Lascaux caves.
Yeah. And you knew when you were investigating and going and doing all this is going to be a thing for you.
At that point, I had started getting interested in doing maybe more, and that's why I wanted to go over. And that's what I said to the government.
Yeah.
Is I'm an artist. I'm thinking about doing a series of,
Right.
So I did the mammoths, woolly mammoths, and several other pieces that were from that visit. The lions, the pack of lions that are running, and all that. So it did start me off on that, in that direction, and it's still interesting to do. I still am enjoying doing it. But with the horses, the little mares that I do, I've called mares of the Ice Age, or rock art mares. what I enjoyed about them so much was I could get really playful with them and start doing kind of combining my own understanding of horses with the images that I saw. These chubby little
Right.
horses had to be mares,
Right.
they weren't the stallions um, that ran in herds, and probably they were mostly used for food.
Right.
But they also must have represented abundance because they were relatively easy prey. And seeing these fat little mares run around, I imagine uh, those were repeated and painted frequently because they were important to the
Yeah,
people.
of course.
So I saw them as kind of like the mares that I was breeding here. They're pregnant, so they're
Mm-hmm.
chubby and they're playful, and they're what also uh, gave me the idea initially was the fact that I had taken a picture of one of my quarter horse mares before she was ready to foal, and she'd been a polo cross horse for me, so I had shaved her mane. So her mane was growing out, it was about that long. I'd braided her tail, preparing for the breeding, for the birth,
Right.
and so she looked like one of those
Those things.
rock art
Yeah.
mares with a skinny
Right.
tail and the
Right.
the short mane. And I kept that photo for years because I thought it was so funny that it looked so much like. And that's what kind of set me off on doing the
Right.
little rock art
Had
mares.
anyone else done that? Do you know? Had taken those images and these flat images of a prehistoric man, from France, and actually turned them into sculpture? Were you the first one to do that?
I can't say I am aware of any sculptors. I've seen um, definitely seen two-dimensional art
Yeah,
done
but
about
sculpture's a
that.
different thing.
But yeah, I I don't know.
Because when I
Yeah.
see those anywhere, I go, "Oh, that's got to be Star Yard." Because people, you're still the one that I think is associated with that, and people really
Maybe
relate
so.
to those pieces, including myself.
Oh, right.
And why those specifically really captures people's imagination or interest. They do though, just repetitively.
Well, it kind of surprised me too because they were delightful to me,
I bet.
but it makes sense with
Yeah.
my interest in
For you,
horses
it makes
and rock
complete
art.
utter sense.
Yeah,
But it
but
was
for
not.
other
Yeah, it
people
was other people too.
that it somehow connected with other people. But one of the other things that I thought was an interesting challenge with them is I'd been used to uh, finding a personality and character in a face.
Right.
And with them, it had to be in their body movement
Right. Totally
instead of their
different.
gestures, which is different.
Yeah, completely different.
So it it was
Stretched
fun in
you,
that,
right?
yeah. And that's one of the things I've really been so grateful to have uh, had enough of an audience so that I could continue to experiment and stretch because that required a different approach to how I did the sculpting. The
Right.
smoother it could it was different than like the wildlife, which I like to really rough up their
Mm-hmm.
the texture when I'm doing it, and I do it very loosely in their fur, and that's different than the Indian women I did, which were really detailed
Right.
and
Right.
carefully, and so each time I've kind of taken another turn or another direction for a while, it's challenged me in that way too, which is a lot of fun.
Yeah, and
It's
we're gonna go take a look at it
okay.
in your studios as well.
Okay.
You and I got to take a quick look, which is going to be fun to see for us, for me, and the audience too. So if you're listening to this on the podcast, you should also watch it on YouTube because you're going to get to see all her studio, right, and everything and how she does it. Is there anything as we conclude this component of what we're going to do today that you feel like we need to talk about or you would like to express? I mean, on this, again, a retrospective of a half a century
Boy, I think we've covered a lot of ground, and anything left, I think, is best said with the sculpture in front of us.
themselves, right? Yeah, I think so too,
Okay.
because it
Yeah.
does give you that I can look at your sculpture, that's one thing. I can talk to you, that's another thing. to see an artist in that place that they create and make all these things, I think is a completely and utterly different thing.
Ah,
I do. There's
yeah.
a mana that happens when you're in that. I'm sure you feel it when you go in,
Absolutely.
and so let's go see if we can try to experience just a tad of that by watching.
Great.
All
Let's
right,
do it.
Sarah, we're gonna go look at her studio now.
Yeah, that podcast is up.